1986. This is Douglas Noble. We're here today in Miami Beach to interview two longtime members of the Philadelphia chapter, Nate0, who attended his first BWT National Convention in 1984, has attended numerous conventions since, and has been co-chair of the Philadelphia chapter probably more times than we can count.
True.
And John Spear, who attended his first NA convention in 1988 in Boston, was co-chair of the convention committee in Philadelphia in 1999, a member of the NA board in the mid-90s, and was co-chair of the anti-racism, anti-oppression committee with Vincent Henderson at that time. And they're both attending their convention for the multiple time. Welcome, and thank you for participating. When did you first join the National Association?
Well, I first joined, I'd say in '82. Just when I had joined, '81, '82, when I had joined the Philadelphia chapter. But I had not been to any conventions at that time. I just got out of school, so I remember that. So, but when I first went to my first convention, it was '84 in Atlanta.
What initially brought you to the Philadelphia chapter?
I had heard of Jerry Mallon had mentioned the organization to me, and I had heard about it, and I was going to go, and I did. I went to several meetings, and I thought it was interesting. And I thought what really struck me was that when I first came to the meeting, everybody was very nice and very friendly, and we had to sign a little registration book that we couldn't join the organization unless we had come to 3 consecutive meetings to show our commitment in the organization. And I said, oh my God, this must be something special here. Because why would I go through all this paperwork just for something that's trivial? But then I had to go back to school for a semester or two, and when I got back to school, I thought, well, there's got to be something else around, like BWMT. So I'm going to add in the Advocate, looking for white guys for friendship or relationships, and the response I got from the Advocate and from the people from that area was, why would you want someone of a different race than what you are? We have enough problems as we are already at what we have. And I'm thinking like, boy, I just left an oasis called BWMT, and I had to come back here in the South. So I got out of school. I ran to BWMT and said, like, this is where this is where I need to be.
So you were going to school in the South? This is where the ad was placed?
Right, in the Advocate in Nashville, Tennessee.
I see.
So it kind of like emphasized the point I needed in a multiracial organization, because that's where my interests were socially. And that's where my initial interest was definitely socialization. Later on became the politics of the organization to get more involved with that.
So you knew Jerry Mallon before you joined?
Briefly. Briefly, yes. We stayed in contact, and then it just was funny because, as we say in Philadelphia, the black and white communities are very small, and I end up seeing the same people that I'd see in bars or something like that, or in mixed circumstances, and then all of a sudden, you go to BWT meeting, you're seeing everybody that you know in the community who are input, like black and white men, or vice versa, like that.
Did you have any role with Jerry's work either in, and I address this to both of you, did you have any role with Jerry's work, and I know the answer to the first one because probably it happened before you were there, but did you have any role with Jerry's work either in establishing the National originally, or in either writing or updating the Resisting Racism manual, which he put out in the 80s?
I had no work with that. I knew it was in either in the finishing up process when I was got involved with that. When I got involved with the organization, I didn't end up doing that.
My only involvement, he had already done the first issue. I had joined when the chapter first started, And I can go into that in a minute, but the second issue or second update was a full update, a revision, and that was done at the time when Jerry had come down with AIDS, and he really wasn't feeling too well, and the publisher of our newsletter, Marvin Kirshner, agreed to typeset everything for him, and so he worked on it to get it ready for the Detroit convention, and because he knew that Jerry probably wasn't going to be around very long, and he was able to get it in time so that they was made available, I believe, for the Detroit convention, and I think that November Jerry died.
Right. That was 1991.
I don't remember
Yeah.
the Detroit convention.
What was your first introduction to the local chapter in Philadelphia?
Well, I've been attending Dignity Philadelphia since 1976, and in about the summer of '79, I met an African-American man named Fred Brown, and he and I knew Jerry because Jerry was also a member of Dignity and would raise questions around race, and said that they were going to have this meeting, so he invited us, and we went there basically as a couple, and I don't remember whether that was the first or second meeting, but at some point there was an organizational meeting, and they said how many people wanted to join this organization and make it come into being, and I was there when they raised their hand at the Smart Place Bar, which doesn't exist anymore. It was basically a black bar, white-owned, and not the best place in the world either, unfortunately. But we voted to form a chapter, and I attended the chapter meeting pretty regularly. Fred never really attended the meeting. He attended sporadically, but I kind of took an interest. And but I was sort of a wallflower back there. I only attended the anniversary and the monthly meeting. I was afraid to go to potlucks because there was a Line Yes Says article, and her writing scared me to death because I thought I could never do anything good enough to please the chapter as far as cooking. So I kind of just stayed in the background, and I went to a couple of the picnics, or Labor Day picnics, which were always large and well attended, at Joshua's farm near Coatesville. So I continued, and it wasn't until 1987, I guess, when Jerry said that the chapter was in need of a lot of help, and if we didn't get the help, the chapter would fold. And I said, I think I better start to attend some more meetings. So I attended the business meeting, and then the rest is history. I attended the Boston convention, which was fabulous. Probably one of my best conventions, maybe because it was my first. And after that, I think in 1980 or 91, when was the co-chairs? 89 to 91, I think. Nate and I were elected co-chairs together the first year. The previous year, Jerry and Nate were co-chairs. And then the following year, myself and I can't remember his name. We were co-chairs. And so I served 2 terms as co-chair, and decided I didn't want to go back because keep pushing people back. No people run if the same people keep running. So that was my opinion then. So I'm kind of the delegate and co-chair, and that's about it.
So you were co-chair before John, and that was in what, the late 80s?
Yes, I don't remember the
Four
order.
or 5 times.
Well, the first time was with Jerry Mallon and I. That's what, really, I was shocked Jerry asked me to become a co-chair because through a few years that I've been in the organization, Jerry was somebody that I really respected. And Jerry didn't ask me to be co-chair. That's like
Exactly the same thing that happened to me. Exactly.
I was just dumbfounded. He was asking, well, I I can't do this. I mean, I've never done anything like this. He says, well, listen, the only way you're going to do it is to do it. So Jerry and I went through 1 year of me being co-chair, and at the time, I think we didn't have a typist. Jerry was typing up a newsletter himself, and I was proofreading, which was not very good. And we were going back and forth. I remember then, and we were copying the newsletters at my apartment, and I would be going back and forth. It was a hell of a good training ground for me, because I was never used to taking any positions of power or strength. And I was always the wallflower and quiet one. Yes, still to some degree, but still, I would not compared to what I was 40.
And that pretty much the same thing happened to me. I mean, I feared public speaking tremendously. And when Jerry asked me to be co-chair, and I had put him on such a pedestal that I thought, wow, if he thinks enough of me, then maybe I might not be so bad. And as a result of being co-chair, I had started a new job for the Housing Authority, and I asked my supervisor, after being co-chair for a while, if I could do it's a Section 8 program, and we do briefings for the new tenants. And I was bold enough to ask if I could participate in doing the inspection part of the briefing, since I'm a Section 8 inspector. And she agreed, and I've been doing it for 15 years. And that, to me, is one of the fine points of this organization, that it teaches you self-esteem, not in a classroom style, but it gives you self-esteem, and that's so important.
Let me ask you this. You both obviously revere Jerry, I think, and as do many people in this organization who knew him. What was it about him that really struck you? How would you describe him to someone that didn't know him?
He was effervescent, you know. He could tell you to go to hell, and you would ask which way. He was so diplomatic. When I was co-chair, and he would attend a meeting, and I would forget something, he would say, well, John, do you think perhaps, and then say something and make a suggestion, not like, you know, well, I think it ought to be done this way, or you forgot something. He would never put anybody down.
Oh, well, I would call him politely aggressive. Jerry if he would bring up an idea and then say, okay, we're going to come back next week and discuss the idea. Jerry already had the idea planned, written out, solution already set out by the next meeting. He wanted to be everybody get a choice. And of course, people being what they are, half of the crowd won't have their act together. The other half haven't thought out logically what's going to happen. And of course, Jerry has it all on paper, you know, single space, double space, bibliography, sources, and everything up to say. And of course, they're going to say, well, Jerry, you've got the plan all set up. We just have to go with your plan. And it happened time and time again, because he was organized and thorough.
And the Philadelphia plan never got that idea from Jerry.
Because he had his act together. That's one thing that I can remember about Jerry vividly, that he had his act together. And like John said, he was full of energy. I can remember Jerry. I can't remember, it doesn't matter what the topic is, he would just be so energetic and saying, you know, we can do this. And like he said, and from that point, you can see it running off to that, oh, I gotta go to disco, I'll see you later. And he was jumping around like that. And then
He was full of life.
Just full of life. And then later on, he'll say, remember, John, in the meeting, we said, okay, I go dance with this guy. Okay, we're back. And he goes back and forth like that. So he was just full of energy. He always stayed on track. I hate to be going on somebody. He was not a saint, but he was pretty damn close.
Let me ask you this. My recollection is I guess it was the mid-'80s, the Philadelphia chapter, and I think it was Don Ransom, produced a...
Rap record.
Was it a rap record?
Right.
What do you remember about that? Did you have any role in that, or if not, what do you remember about that?
I remember that Len Boast and a few other people, Jerry Lester was involved with the getting the artist, and I think Jerry just did the writing for it, of the song itself.
He didn't do the performance.
No, he didn't do the performance. And it was probably coordinated with the task, remember, the
Philadelphia
AIDS task.
Philadelphia AIDS Task Force, which is part of Philadelphia Community Health Alternative.
And it was supposed to be doing a program. They were supposed to be pushing the AIDS education and for
Respect yourself.
right, exactly. It was called Respect Yourself, and it was supposed to be. And they were pushing to get it, the rap record aired on the radio station in Philadelphia, and still pushing AIDS education in Philadelphia. We were, to my recollection, I think we got a little airplay on the radio stations in Philadelphia. I don't think that we got a lot of exposure with the ads, Respect Yourself. Even though this day, I do see a few of those plaques still around saying Respect Yourself. We were passing out records, I think, all over all the different chapters on the Eastern Seaboard. And I know we got a lot of attention about that. I think we were the first. I think we still were the first organization, any organization, to put out an AIDS rap record.
That was about 1985.
Yeah, it was. I remember it occurred almost my first time I came to the NA. I remember hearing about it. Well, I don't want to ask too leading a question here, but my recollection is that at some point, was it in the mid or late 80s, that your chapter almost disappeared, didn't it, at one time?
Right, that was the time when I got involved.
I see. That was when he asked you to.
Referring to, yeah.
I see.
Not that, I mean, I saved the chapter, but I mean, that was what pulled me in at the time, because a letter was sent around that, we may fold if we don't do something, so it is a very important meeting.
Well, it was important because that meeting, not so much because between what AIDS had done to our chapter, it had really done a major job to our chapter. It killed a lot of our members. And plus the natural infighting that happens with a chapter, and a lot of people have a lot of great ideas and all going, unfortunately, sometimes different directions. Mm-hmm. People just felt it was best to say, I'm not going. Either I'm going to dedicate myself to this, or I'm not going to be involved with that. I can think of one person in particular who, one of the other founding members of our organization. He thought the idea of the organization was fine, was wonderful, but the infighting was enough to drive him away from the organization. And I have not, until recently, it's been over 10 years since I had seen this person. He said, the idea was fine, but I need to do other things.
So what do you think I'm sorry.
No.
Well, now, in 2002, you, I think by anyone's assessment, have the most vibrant, active, strong chapter we have. What do you think made the difference? What's happened in the last 15 years that turned your chapter around maybe almost completely? Even as Jerry, your founder, has died years ago.
Well, it's I don't mean to monopolize this, but one thing you can say about Jerry had a core group of people that really worked strongly with him, and that is what we have. The people have changed to some degree, but a core group of people have always been there in Philadelphia chapter. For a long time, it was John, Jerry, then some other people would come in, and you would come in later on. I came in. I can think, Beck Davis popped in occasionally. I mean, he was always there.
And Stevie and Art.
So that's towards the middle of
yeah. That was like about 1995 or 94, 95 when they came to Philadelphia, and they were a very positive influence, because at that time we were starting to get lower numbers. What happened was...
Excuse me, but you're talking about Stevie Martin and Art Chester.
Correct.
Now Stevie and Art Martin Chester, right? Okay.
And they came from Connecticut, the New Haven chapter, and what was happening was we had become an AIDS organization because we were doing hot, horny, and healthy workshops. We were tied to the city health department. Babashi, which is Blacks Educating Blacks About Sexual Health Issues, the task force, which we mentioned earlier, and Action Aid, so on. And we were getting known in that area, but it was taking a lot of work. And we were losing our focus of
Anti-racism.
being black and white men together, or MACT, men of all colors together, and we weren't really dealing with that. So after the name change, that's when we realized we needed to refocus. So when Stevie and Art came here, we kind of refocused on the statement of purpose and kind of let the AIDS organizations do AIDS work, and we got back to dealing with the racism part.
When did you change your name, and what occasioned that to happen?
Well, it came up several times, and anytime you want to revive a chapter, is you should have a discussion on name change.
And how long did our name change discussion go on, John? How many years?
Yes, but I think it was not until 1993, 92 or 93, when we did the name change, and it was kind of it's a long story. Basically, one of the members, Marvin Kirshner, who I told you about earlier, resigned because he felt that we did not do it according to proper format. And we had a straw vote as a steering committee, and at that time we had 35 paid members on record, and we had 34 votes were turned in. And that was fantastic to get that many out of your membership. And if we had we had a choice for BWMT, MACT, PACT, or ACT. And we had like 7 votes for BWMT, but all the other ones took away, and none had the majority of 7 votes. So we said, well, I guess we can't go on because BWMT is the winner. And at the next general membership meeting was that Sunday, and Marvin did not attend. A very vocal member of our chapter, Frank Jobin, who was for the name change and kept pushing for it. I said, well, we called for a general membership meeting to vote on the name change. I don't care what a straw vote said, we're here to vote on the name change. So we voted on a name change, and MACT won. And so therefore, we changed the name at that point and never went back.
What were your positions on this?
Actually, I took my cue from Nate because he was back and forth between, well, I like the fact that black is in the name, but I think maybe we really need to be more open.
Let me explain what I mean by that. Let me explain by that. Remember, in the early days of the organization of Philadelphia, there were 2 organizations. I think a black gay organization, and a black.
Adobe.
I don't know if it was Adobe, but it was some black gay organization, and they were doing pretty well. And black and white men together. What organization in any city, in my recollection, starts out saying it wants black men in it? Not as an afterthought, but as the first thought. Rarely does that happen. And and at that time too, we had a black caucus. We had strength in the blackness of our chapter. I just felt like we were respected more because we had numbers more, and we seemed to be together more as a black members of an organization. And I still wanted that idea, and I pushed for black caucuses as much as I could. But with anything, nobody thinks the same way, and we all got different ideas. But I still wanted that idea, even in the vote. I really just wanted to change it. At that point, I was wore down after all those years discussing. I really didn't care what the organization, because my whole point was if you're not known by your name, you're known by your deeds. So I really didn't care what the organization was called, as long as we did productive things. And the same thing I said then is the same thing I say now. Is you can call yourself MACT. If I'm Hispanic, I'm going to say, okay, what do you have for me? What do you set up for me? And that question has still not been answered.
Right. Unfortunately, we did what many other chapters did. We changed the name and still held the same philosophy we had before. And even now, to this day, we pretty much think in black and white terms. We might make some mild gestures, but we really are a black and white men together chapter.
And the change, if we were toward, if the way we can measure whether a name change was effective enough, if you can do that, and one way I know is look at membership and see if your numbers have gone up or down, and if they're more diverse than you were before.
Certainly not
And,
diverse, although
and
we've
we're
had a
not more,
couple
and we're not more diverse then. I think that we
We've had
got
a couple of Latinos over
exactly.
the time, but
We've
that's
had
a
3
couple.
Latino members in what, in 10 years. I mean, that does not say very effective what we've done and what the name was supposed to do, or what we backed up with it. So that's why I said the whole thing, black and white men together. I knew this was going to happen.
It sounds to me like the debate is going on between the two of you right now.
Well, actually, Nate and I, when we were co-chairs, I mean, we would go all into the night with conversation. I mean, we talked and talked. I mean, we know more about each other than most people do.
That's a different take. Go ahead.
Most people who aren't partners.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Just to make this perfectly clear, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I take it you have neither a large non-black-white membership nor a non-black-white agenda at this point, or at any point.
Pretty much correct.
Not a large, but we've always still pushed for diversity and trying to get that parts of the organization that are not there, Hispanic or women in other cases. We're always doing outreach.
Let me, I don't want to forget your more recent history and your hosting the convention and your current project, the AIDS support work in Africa that you talked about the other day. But I want to go back to your first contact with the National, and I guess you were first, Nate, because you came to the convention in '84 in Atlanta.
Right.
How did you happen to do that, and what did you think?
I came to the convention because Jerry had wanted me to go to, I think it was Ohio, for the other convention.
Columbus was in '83.
Right, he really wanted me to go, and I just was like, well, I'm just joining this organization. I'm just getting to know these guys. I don't know if I really, really been comfortable doing this. So I went to Atlanta, and I had my brother also did it. And I said, well, I can, let's come to shove. I always got somewhere to go. I walked into that convention going, oh my God, I'm home. I'm absolutely home because everybody was just so friendly. I felt like everybody was doing something positive. And of course I was just overwhelmed by that, like I said, the social aspect of it. And these guys had minds. These guys were thinking of things that I hadn't even thought about. Gentrification. What do I know about gentrification? I'm thinking like, I gotta, anti-racism plan, and this is like, what were we working on? There's so many things going on. The meetings were overwhelming, to say the least, because I didn't know so many chapters that were doing so many things. So I was just bowled over, to say the least. I remember, the best thing I remember about the organization the last day, thinking like, I am so hyped. I got so much energy. I gotta go back and do something in my chapter. Took a while to make that happen, but I remember that energy. I haven't had that energy for a long time. I mean, like 3-4 years after, I still was so eager to do things and be more, and get excited from the convention. Again, when you get older, you get older.
Did you channel all that energy locally?